The man known as the Zen Master, Phil Jackson, failed to bring peace to New York Knicks fans, and now he's not their problem anymore. He and Knicks owner James Dolan agreed to part ways this morning, ending his 3-year tenure as team president. The team has had 3 straight losing seasons with Jackson at the helm, and it's included some public disputes with 2 of the Knicks star players. We are joined to talk about this by Reid Forgrave, who is NBA writer for CBSSports.com. Reid, good to talk to you. What happened? I mean, Phil Jackson, he was a genius just a couple of years ago.
He was the Zen master. He was on the all-time Mount Rushmore of coaches. And now I think he joins the group of one of the worst NBA executives of all time. Just a litany of disasters from his 3 years at the helm, from giving away Defensive Player of the Year Tyson Chandler to alienated stars like Carmelo Anthony, Kristaps Porzingis, and then worst of all is the results. He led the Knicks to their worst season in history, to their longest losing streak in history. Look, his legacy is not ruined. He still gets to keep those 11 rings, but there's a lesson here, and it's that coaching acumen doesn't always transfer to the front office.
I wanted to ask you about that because, of course, he is renowned for having all of those championship rings, all of his years in Chicago and Los Angeles. He is certainly a Hall of Famer as a coach. But what is the difference between coaching the guys on the court and then running the team from the front office? And why was that so difficult for him?
Look, Phil Jackson was never a strategic master. What he was a master of massaging the giant egos that come into the NBA. And he had some of the biggest egos of all time. He had Michael Jordan, he had Shaquille O'Neal, he had Kobe Bryant. That's what made Phil Jackson a great coach. His obsession with the triangle offense in time proved to be his downfall. Look, as general manager, he basically brought this antiquated system of basketball to New York City in an age where the triangle offense doesn't work. And he signed players who would supposedly fit that system. Being a general manager in the NBA is a 24/7 job. It's not a job for a guy at 71 years old who seems halfway retired, who has allegedly slept his way through workouts with potential draftees. Phil Jackson was never the right choice for this job. He was only the right choice for this press conference.
Knicks fans have got to be up in arms, and they have very good reason to be, and they have had good reason to have been that way for years and years now. What is up with this franchise? What is the future to get this once proud team back up and on the right track?
Well, as long as you have James Dolan in charge, owning the team, there ain't much to be done. He is, now that Donald Sterling is thankfully long gone, James Dolan is the worst owner in the NBA. Now, maybe he'll make the right choice here. Maybe he'll get Masai Ujiri from the Toronto Raptors, which I think would be a phenomenal choice for general manager, and let him run the show. But what James Dolan does is he always gets in the way. That's what we've seen with Phil. That's what we've seen before Phil. This organization has been an absolute dumpster fire. The problem is, it's also an organization that basically prints money. So there's no reason for James Dolan to sell.
Okay, they got 2 players to build around, I guess, as we take a look at James Dolan there. Carmelo Anthony, who was probably sort of on the backside of his career, but still a decent player. And then, of course, one of the up-and-comers who's going to be one of the best players in the NBA. I read your piece. You think in the next couple of years we're talking about Kristaps Porzingis. And this was probably one of Phil Jackson's best achievements as running the team because, of course, they drafted this guy who's going to be just an unbelievable player. Can they build around these 2? And if not, what is the future? Where do they go? Where do they look?
Kristaps Porzingis is the guy to build around. Carmelo Anthony is the past. Look, he has always been a phenomenal offensive player, but Carmelo is a pretty one-dimensional guy. I don't think the future of NBA basketball looks like Carmelo Anthony. What it does look like is that man you're looking at right there, a 7'3" Latvian who can put the ball on the floor, who can block shots, and who amazingly can shoot the 3. He is called a unicorn in NBA circles. The fact that Phil Jackson had alienated Kristaps Porzingis over the past year, that Kristaps Porzingis missed his exit meeting because he was so frustrated with this team, that might have been the straw that finally, mercifully, broke the camel's back.
Wow. Before we let you go, Reid, I want to ask you about the news that we heard that the LA Clippers have traded Chris Paul, one of the game's greats, to the Houston Rockets. What do you make of this deal?
This is a high-risk, high-reward deal. The NBA's offseason, I swear, can be more fun than the NBA's on-season. This is a mega deal. Chris Paul is one of the greatest point guards of all time, but he has never had success in the playoffs. One reason that people say Chris Paul has not had as much success as they expected him to when he came into the league is because of his domineering personality. Frankly, he can be a tough guy to work with his teammates. It's going to be interesting to see how Chris Paul and James Harden, who easily could have been the NBA MVP this year, will work together in the same backcourt. Both guys who like to have the ball in their hands. Both guys who kind of play the same sort of game. This could be huge for them. It could vault the Rockets into the top 2 in the Western Conference, or it could be an unmitigated disaster. We will see. Time will show us.
All right, one more question. I lied. As a South Jersey guy and a Philadelphia 76ers fan, I need to know your thoughts going forward, because that team is selling more season tickets than they ever have in their history. Fans in Philadelphia and South Jersey are so excited for the upcoming season.
Look, I live in the place that has the only better young core than the Philadelphia 76ers. I live in Minneapolis, Minnesota, but I am just as excited for this core that the Sixers have. Look, it's all based on potential. It's based on Will Joel Embiid, who could be a transcendent talent if he stays healthy, if he can play more than 36 games over a 3-year period. It's based on Ben Simmons, who had to sit out his rookie year, but is a LeBron James-like talent. It's based on Markelle Fultz, the #1 overall pick, who obviously has yet to play an NBA game, but his team only won 9 games in college. That young core of 3 players, there aren't many teams in the NBA who wouldn't switch places with the Sixers right now, but this is all based off projections. Come back to me when you guys have won more than, 25 games.
Fair point. All right, well, go Sixers and go Timberwolves. And Reid Forgrave, thanks so much. Great to talk to you.
Thanks for having me.